The wind had been restless all evening, sweeping across the open plains like it had somewhere urgent to be. The cowboy had just finished feeding the fire when the sound came, 3 slow knocks on the cabin door. Not loud, not desperate, just steady enough to make his hand freeze midair. No one knocked that late, unless they were lost, hurt, or running from something. He waited, listening. The horses outside shifted uneasily. The fire popped. Then came the knock again. The cowboy took his lantern and opened the door carefully. A woman stood there, silhouetted by the moonlight. She was barefoot, her feet caked with dirt and dried blood. A torn piece of cloth hung loosely around her shoulders, barely enough to shield her from the cold night air. Her long dark hair clung to her face, damp with sweat. She did not step forward. She did not beg. She simply stood there, breathing hard, eyes fixed on him with a mix of fear and determination. "I cold," she said quietly, the words broken but clear enough. The cowboy had seen hard times, droughts, stampedes, men who didn't make it through winter, but something about this moment felt heavier. He noticed how she kept her hands visible, how her body stayed tense, ready to flee at the slightest movement. He stepped back and opened the door wider. "Come in," he said calmly. "You're safe here tonight." She hesitated, scanning the cabin, the fire, the rifle resting against the wall. Trust did not come easily to someone who had walked alone through the dark. Finally, she stepped inside, stopping near the door as if she didn't intend to stay long. The cowboy placed a blanket near the fire and poured water into a tin cup, setting it on the table without forcing it into her hands. He kept his distance, letting the silence do the work. Out here, silence was often kinder than questions. She drank slowly, hands shaking. Up close, he saw bruises along her wrists and ankles, faded but unmistakable, not from the land, from people. "You can rest," he said. "No one's coming for you tonight." She lowered herself onto the floor near the fire, still wrapped in the torn cloth. Her eyes never left the doorway. The cowboy sat across the room, removing his hat and setting it aside, a quiet sign of respect. Outside, coyotes howled, their cries echoing across the plains. The woman flinched, pulling the blanket tighter when he gently slid it toward her with his boot. For a long while, neither spoke. Finally, she whispered, "I walked many days." He nodded. "You don't have to tell me more." The firelight flickered across her face, revealing exhaustion so deep it looked carved into her bones. Whatever she had escaped, it had taken everything she had left. As the night wore on, her breathing slowed. She didn't sleep fully, but she stayed. And the cowboy understood something then. This wasn't about charity or rescue or heroics. It was about one simple choice. When someone knocks on your door in the dark, you can turn them away. Or you can change the course of a life. Dawn arrived quietly, as if it didn't want to wake anyone. Pale light slipped through the cracks in the cabin walls, touching the fire's dying embers and the dust floating in the air. The cowboy opened his eyes and sat up slowly, listening. The woman was still there. She sat near the hearth, wrapped tightly in the blanket, her knees drawn to her chest. She hadn't slept much, neither had he. Out here, trust was something you earned with time, not promises. He stood, careful not to startle her, and poured water from the kettle that had been warming near the fire. He set another tin cup on the table, along with a piece of hard bread and dried meat. "You should eat," he said gently. She watched him for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger than the night before. As she ate, he stepped outside to tend the horses. The morning air was sharp and clean, carrying the smell of sage and damp earth. He scanned the horizon out of habit. No riders, no tracks that didn't belong. Whatever she had been running from hadn't followed her here. When he returned, she stood by the window, staring out at the open land as if she'd never seen so much space before. "My name is Eli," he said, keeping his tone simple. She hesitated, then placed a hand over her heart. "Naya," she replied, "Apache." He nodded, not surprised. The land had a way of telling you where people came from if you listened closely enough. She noticed his glance toward her bruised wrists and quickly pulled the blanket tighter. He looked away just as fast. "You don't owe me explanations," he said, "but if you want help, I can offer it." She took a deep breath. "They sold me," she said slowly, choosing each word with care. "For debt, I ran." The words settled between them like dust after a storm. Eli leaned against the table, his jaw tightening. He'd heard stories, traders, fake contracts, men who treated people like property. Hearing it was one thing, seeing the marks it left was another. "No one owns you here," he said firmly. "Not today, not ever." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she straightened her shoulders, as if the words had given her something back she thought she'd lost. He offered her clean clothes, his late wife's old dress, carefully folded in a trunk he rarely opened. Naya accepted it with reverence, as though it was something sacred. When she returned, washed and dressed, she looked like a different person, not because she was suddenly whole, but because she had been given dignity. "I don't want trouble," she said quietly. "I can work, I can leave." Eli shook his head. "You can stay until you decide what comes next." Outside, the sun climbed higher, lighting the fields and fences, the endless stretch of land that asked nothing but honesty from those who lived on it. Naya stepped onto the porch and inhaled deeply. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't running. And Eli realized something too. This wasn't just a night of shelter. It was the beginning of a story neither of them had planned, but both might need. The days that followed settled into a quiet rhythm, but the silence carried weight. Naya woke before sunrise each morning, as if her body still believed danger waited in sleep. She helped without being asked, fetching water, sweeping the cabin, mending torn sacks with careful hands. She worked like someone afraid usefulness was the price of safety. Eli noticed everything, though he spoke little. He showed her the barn, the small chicken pen, the stretch of land where the soil still resisted his efforts. She listened closely, memorizing every word, every rule of the place. Out here, knowing where to stand and where not to mattered. One afternoon, as Eli repaired a broken fence, Naya brought him water. Her hands trembled slightly when a distant rider appeared on the horizon. It was just a traveler passing through, but the fear came fast and deep. "They won't find you," Eli said calmly. Following her gaze, "No one comes this far unless they're lost or desperate." She nodded, though her eyes stayed fixed until the rider disappeared. That night the wind howled hard against the cabin, rattling the shutters. Naya woke from a dream she couldn't shake, ropes, shouting, hands pulling her backward. She sat up, breath shallow, heart racing. Eli heard the movement and stepped out from his room. He didn't ask questions. He just set another log on the fire and sat nearby, far enough to give space, close enough to remind her she wasn't alone. "Back home," she said after a long silence, "my people believed the land remembers us, even when we leave it." He looked into the flames. "This land remembers too," he replied, "but it doesn't judge." She studied him, surprised by the softness in his voice. The next morning, trouble came closer than either expected. Hoofprints appeared near the creek, fresh, careless. Eli crouched to inspect them, his expression hardening, more than one rider, not travelers. He returned to the cabin and handed Naya a coat. "Pack what you need," he said, "just in case." Her face went pale. "They're coming for me." "Maybe," he answered honestly, "but they won't take you." He loaded his rifle, but left it leaning by the door, visible but unused. Whatever came next, he wanted her to know he wasn't protecting her out of fear, he was choosing to. By afternoon, two men rode up to the fence line, rough-looking, eyes sharp, voices louder than necessary. "We're looking for a woman," one called out, "ran off owing money." Eli stepped forward, calm as stone. "You're on private land." The men glanced past him, searching. Naya stood in the doorway, spine straight, hands steady at her sides. She didn't hide. "She's not property," Eli said firmly, "and she doesn't owe you anything here." The men laughed, but it was uneasy laughter. Something in Eli's stillness made them hesitate. After a tense moment, they turned their horses away, muttering threats that carried no real weight. When the dust settled, Naya exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding for years. "They'll come again," she said. "Maybe," Eli replied, "but next time you won't face them as someone running." That night, as the stars burned bright and unafraid above the cabin, Naya realized something important. For the first time since her freedom was taken, someone had stood beside her, not to own her, not to save her, but to respect her choice to stand. And that changed everything. The tension from the rider's visit lingered long after their tracks disappeared. Eli knew men like that rarely forgot what they believed they were owed. From that day on, he changed the way he worked, keeping the rifle closer, scanning the horizon more often, listening to the land the way his father once taught him. Naya noticed. "You expect trouble," she said one evening as they repaired the fence together. "I prepare for it," Eli replied. "That's different." She nodded slowly, absorbing the lesson. Survival, she was learning, didn't always mean running. Sometimes it meant rooting yourself so firmly that fear had nowhere to push you. Days passed, and the ranch began to feel less like a hiding place and more like a shared life. Eli taught her how to ride properly, how to read the sky for weather, how to tell when cattle were uneasy. In return, Naya showed him which wild plants could be eaten, how to track quietly without leaving signs, how to listen beyond sound, feeling the earth through bare feet. They spoke more now, but carefully, like people crossing a river stone by stone. One afternoon, while gathering wood, Naya stopped suddenly. She knelt and touched the ground, her expression tightening. "Someone was here," she said, "this morning." Eli checked the marks and swore under his breath. One rider this time, watching, waiting. That night, Eli made a decision he'd been avoiding. "You don't have to stay," he told her quietly as they sat by the fire. "I can take you to the trading post. From there you could go north. New name, new start." Naya stared into the flames for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "I have been sent away my whole life," she said, "by men who decided where I belonged. I won't leave because someone is afraid." He met her gaze. "I'm not afraid of you staying." "I know," she replied. "That's why I'm choosing to." The next morning, the rider returned, alone, bold, careless. He stopped just beyond the fence and smirked. "She's worth money," he said. "You're a fool to protect her." Eli stepped forward, but before he could speak, Naya did. "I am not lost," she said clearly, "and I am not yours." Her voice carried across the dry air, calm and unbroken. The rider laughed. "You think words change the past?" "No," she answered, "but they change what comes next." Eli raised the rifle, not aimed, but visible, final. The rider studied them both, calculating. Whatever he saw there made him turn his horse and ride away without another word. When the dust cleared, Eli let out a slow breath. "You didn't have to face him." "Yes," Naya said gently, "I did." That evening she cut her hair shorter, a deliberate act, not mourning, not erasing, claiming herself. "I am done living like someone borrowed," she said. Eli watched her, understanding settling deep in his chest. This wasn't about shelter anymore, it was about dignity. As night fell, Naya stood outside the cabin, looking at the stars. For the first time, they didn't feel distant. They felt like witnesses. And somewhere between fear and freedom, a new kind of strength began to take shape, quiet, unbreakable, and chosen. The rider did not return the next day, nor the day after that, but the land did not forget him. Eli felt it in the stillness, the way birds lifted suddenly from the grass, the way the horses shifted at night. Trouble did not always announce itself loudly, sometimes it waited. Naya sensed it too. She no longer startled at every sound, but her awareness had sharpened. Survival had taught her that danger rarely came from nowhere, it followed patterns, and this pattern felt unfinished. One afternoon, Eli rode out to check the far fence line, leaving Naya at the cabin. She worked in the garden, hands deep in the soil, grounding herself in the present. The sky darkened earlier than expected, clouds rolling in low and heavy. That was when she heard hoofbeats. Not fast, not careless, deliberate. Two riders emerged from the trees near the creek, the same men as before, joined now by a third. They stopped just beyond the fence, confident. "You should have taken the offer," one of them called. "We don't like being refused." Naya stood still, her heart pounding but her posture firm. She did not run. "She's not here," she said evenly, "and even if I were, you have no claim." The men laughed and dismounted, testing the gait. That was when Eli appeared on the ridge, riding hard, rifle across his back. He pulled his horse to a halt beside her, his presence solid and unmistakable. "This ends now," Eli said. "You trespass again, I ride straight to the marshal." "There is no marshal who cares," one man sneered. "Then I'll make him care," Eli replied. For a moment, everything hung in balance. The wind, the dust, the memory of old wrongs. Naya felt the familiar pull of fear, urging her to shrink, to disappear. Instead, she stepped forward. "I was sold," she said loudly. "Without consent, without law, you profit from harm. That ends today." Her voice did not waver. Something shifted then, not in the men, but in the moment itself. They saw it too. She was no longer someone who could be dragged back into silence. She stood with choice, with witness. Eli raised the rifle, not threatening, but final. The men cursed and backed away. One spat in the dirt. "This isn't over," he warned. "It is for you," Eli said. They rode off, slower this time, their confidence gone. That night rain finally fell, washing dust from the land. Naya stood outside, letting it soak her hair, her face, her scars. Each drop felt like proof she was still here. "I don't want to hide anymore," she said quietly. "You don't have to," Eli answered. In the days that followed, Eli kept his word. He rode to town, spoke to the right people, put names to faces. Word traveled faster than horses. The men did not return. Naya began to plan, not an escape, but a future. She talked of learning more English, of trading goods at the post, of helping other women when she could. For the first time, her story was not shaped by what had been taken, but by what she chose to build. And Eli understood something then. Freedom is not proven in the moment danger passes. It is proven in what you dare to imagine afterward. The land felt different once the danger passed. Not safer in the way stories like to pretend, but honest, open, wide, and demanding. Naya woke one morning and realized she had slept through the night without dreams chasing her awake. That alone felt like a victory she never expected to claim. Life at the ranch continued, but now it carried purpose instead of fear. Naya worked beside Eli as an equal. She rode without hesitation, spoke more confidently, and laughed more often, soft at first, then real. Her English improved quickly, shaped by patience and daily use rather than force. And when neighbors came by, she met their stares without shrinking. Eli noticed the change, though he never commented on it. He believed strength spoke for itself. One afternoon, they rode into town together. It was Naya's idea. She wanted to be seen, not as someone hiding, not as someone owned, but as someone who chose where she stood. At the trading post, she exchanged herbs and handmade goods for supplies. A few people asked questions, most simply nodded, recognizing the quiet authority she carried. That night, sitting by the fire, Naya spoke of the future. "There are others like me," she said, "women who run, who don't know where safety is. I want this place to mean something more than shelter." Eli listened carefully. "Then we'll make it mean that," he said. Seasons passed. The ranch became known as a place where work was fair and no one was traded or threatened. Word spread quietly, the way truth often does. A widow came first, then a young man escaping debt. No one stayed forever, but everyone left with choice. Naya never forgot where she came from, but it no longer defined her. She kept her name, she kept her past, and she kept her freedom. One evening, as the sun sank low and painted the plains gold, Naya stood on the porch and looked out across the land. This was the same door she had once knocked on in the dark, wrapped in fear and torn cloth. Now she stood tall, strong, unafraid. "I will leave someday," she said calmly, Not because I must, because I want to. Eli nodded. That's how it should be. When the time came, she packed lightly. There were no chains tying her here, only respect. Eli walked her to the horse, handing her supplies and a small pouch of coins. You earned every step ahead, he said. Naya mounted and looked back once, not with sadness, but with gratitude. She had arrived broken, silent, and hunted. She left whole, heard, and free. As her horse carried her toward the open horizon, Eli watched until she became part of the land itself. The door behind him remained open, not because someone might knock again, but because he now understood something deeply. Freedom begins the moment one human chooses to see another as human first. And that choice, once made, never truly ends.